Squiz Kids!
It's your daily news fix. Fun, free, fresh.
Good morning and welcome to Squiz Kids, your fresh take on what's happening in the world around you. I'm Bryce Corbett. It's Tuesday, November 17. In Squiz Kids today, SpaceX has liftoff. Belgium's $1 million pigeon. Why video games are good for you, and the Nobody's normal celebration. That's what's making news, kids style.
The Lowdown.
We have liftoff. Again. As we go to air this morning, high above our heads are 4 astronauts aboard the SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule, making their way to the International Space Station. It's the American Space Agency NASA's first fully fledged mission to send a crew into orbit on board a privately owned spacecraft. Remember back in August when 2 astronauts went into space aboard a SpaceX rocket ship? That was sort of a test run. The capsule, called Resilience, as a nod to the tough year the world has had, took off from Earth yesterday and is scheduled to reach the International Space Station at 3 p.m. this afternoon. The astronauts on board will then spend up to 6 months aboard the space station, floating around in space 400 kilometres above Earth, conducting experiments while living aboard the world's coolest laboratory. The 4 astronauts include a Japanese scientist, a female physicist, and Victor Glover, the first black astronaut to spend an extended period of time in space. Cool. Down here on Earth, there was some good news and not so good news. While Victoria celebrated 16 days straight with no new coronavirus cases, South Australia was rocked by the emergence of a cluster of 17 COVID cases in northern Adelaide. The development has seen some states change their rules about letting South Australians cross their borders. Health officials say they're confident they'll soon have it under control.
Spin the globe.
Each day we give the world globe a spin and find a news story from wherever it stops. And today we've landed in Belgium, home of the world's most expensive pigeon. You see them everywhere, right? Hanging around city squares and parks, making a grey feathered nuisance of themselves. So you'd imagine they wouldn't fetch a very high price at an auction. But not the Belgian racing pigeon New Kim. A sleek, purebred bird, which a pigeon racer from China thought was so special, they forked out $2.6 million for her. That's one valuable ball of feathers. Did you know that Belgium, which is a country in Europe just to the north of France, has more pigeon fanciers than any other country in the world? Personally, though, it's their excellent chocolate and double-fried hot chips that interest me more. Yum. And yes, because I know you all want to see what a $2 million pigeon looks like, there's a link to a photo in today's episode notes.
Pop Culture Corner.
Here's a little news item guaranteed to make kids smile and adults frown. A bunch of scientists in the United Kingdom have just completed a study of video games and found that in some instances, playing video games is good for your health. Researchers at Oxford University studied some 3,200 regular gamers and found that their sense of well-being was enhanced by the games they played, most especially if they were the sorts of games that encouraged social interaction, like Animal Crossing, for example. It follows a recent report from the University of Montreal that followed nearly 4,000 teenagers for 6 years and found that while social media, excessive TV viewing and computer use could cause anxiety, video gaming could make teenagers happier. Sorry, parents.
Squiz Kids salutes.
Have you ever felt a little bit on the outer? Do you sometimes feel like you don't fit in? That maybe you're not quite like everyone else? Excellent. Then you're just like the rest of us. And to celebrate how unique every single one of us is, and to recognise that we all occasionally feel like we don't belong, a charity in the UK has produced a TV ad called Nobody is Normal. It tells the story of a school kid who feels like he's putting on a disguise every day he comes to school to hide his true self. It's a cracker of an ad with a really important message. So there's a link to it in today's episode notes.
Hi everyone, it's Rosie here again, reminding you there's only 2 days left for you to help make Squiz Kids Australia's favourite podcast. We're up for the Listener's Choice Award at this weekend's Australian Podcast Awards. And if enough of us vote, we can beat those boring adult podcasts, which are all about insurance and finance or whatever it is that adults talk about. Let's win this thing and remind all those big people out there that it's a kid's world too. Visit australianpodcastawards.com/vote or follow the link in today's episode notes. Thank you. Time for the quiz.
This is the part of the podcast where you get to test how well you've been listening. Question number 1. The SpaceX astronauts are today expected to arrive at what floating laboratory high above our heads? That's right, it's the International Space Station. Question number 2. What sort of a bird has a Chinese collector just paid $2 million for? Yeah, it's a pigeon. Question number 3. What's the name of a TV ad by a UK charity that reminds us that we're all just a little bit different? Yeah, it's Nobody is Normal.
Shout outs.
It's November 17, birthday of Australia's Got Talent judge Lucy Durack and Aussie singer Kate Sobrano. It's also only 38 sleeps till Christmas. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. It's also a special day for these Squiz Kids celebrating a birthday today. My good friend Alice from Townsville, Mahalia from Broken Hill, Isaac from Erskineville, Ella from Brisbane, Charlie from Julia Creek, Dexter from Albany Hills, Ryan from Donvale, Charlotte from Dubbo, Gracie from Vermont, Dexter from Albany Hills, Joanne from Hurstville, and Billy from Maroubra. And a belated birthday shout out to Rachel from Bolton Point. Happy birthday to you all. And today's classroom shout outs go to Class Wintercress at Macquarie Primary School, Mr. Scarf and 3-4S at Ferny Hills State School, Year 5-6 at Wallumbilla State School, Mrs. Preston's Year 4 class at Rockingham Lakes Primary School, and classes 3, 4L and 6D at Tanilba Bay Public School. Don't forget, if you've got a birthday coming up and you want a shout out, or if you're after a classroom shout out, drop us a line at squizkids@thesquiz.com.au. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thanks for listening to Squiz Kids. We'll be back again tomorrow. In the meantime, get out there and have a most excellent day. Over and out. Squiz Kids is proudly supported by the Judith Neilson Institute for Journalism and Ideas.
Squiz Kids.
It's your daily news fix. Fun, free, fresh.